Hey everyone, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and in today's video we're going to talk about this new HBO Max 4K stream of Wonder Woman 1984. We're going to talk about the audio and the video, the quality of the stream, how that at-home experience was compared to seeing similar type movies in a movie theater in a large screen format, and I'll talk a little bit about the movie itself and my thoughts on that. Now, before we get started with this video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we're coming up at the end of 2020 and we have a goal for 2021 to hit 100,000 subscribers. So I'd love if you can help me hit that goal. There's gonna be many more videos like this as HBO Max continues to roll out releases, as well as plenty of 4K and Blu-ray disc reviews and home theater topics to talk about. So subscribe if you're interested in any of that. So really quickly, if you don't know the kind of backstory to Wonder Woman 1984 and what's going on with Warner Brothers and HBO Max, I did make a video about it a few weeks ago, but basically Warner Brothers decided that starting with Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas Day, all of their theatrical releases would be streaming on HBO Max the same day that they're in theaters. So Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas Day was placed on HBO Max, and it was also shown in whatever theaters are actually open. Some of the international theaters are a little more open than the United States theaters, so there were some box office numbers rolling in there. But in the US right now, primarily theaters are closed. So Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max is the way that most people will probably see this movie until it comes out on disc. So the big news here was that this was HBO Max's first 4K stream. And this was a 4K Ultra HD stream. It has Dolby Vision HDR and it has Dolby Atmos audio. So it checks all the boxes, right? Great HDR, the highest quality Dolby Vision, highest quality Dolby Atmos sound in that full 4K resolution of a movie like Wonder Woman, which was actually shot in 35mm and has a 4K digital intermediate according to IMDb. So it is a true 4K picture, and it's really nice that they streamed this in 4K and made that leap with Wonder Woman. Before we get into the quality, I want to talk a little bit about the movie itself. I actually thought it was a little bit long. I was surprised that it was 2.5 hours long. It was a little bit disjointed. There's a lot going on. I feel like we didn't fully explore the motives behind some of the characters, the villains in this movie. Kristen Wiig's character in particular was kind of just thrown in there, and we don't really explore like any sort of backstory to that villain, as well as Max Lord and Pedro Pascal's character. Didn't feel really invested in that, didn't feel like a real bad guy, you know, type of vibe. It was a really interesting, strange movie in that way. Bringing back Chris Pine, that's not a spoiler, everyone knows he's in this movie. Bringing him back was a welcome addition. He is probably the best of the supporting cast. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is really great. I really like her as Wonder Woman. I think she does a great job, but this script and the story just seemed a little bit all over the place. They played with the 80s vibe a little bit, which was funny with Chris Pine's character, and then you kind of lost that right away. That was like a gag for 5 minutes and it never came back. And you know, just the 1984, that whole like theme didn't really tie in. Overall, the movie was a bit of a mess, I thought. And the first movie, the first Wonder Woman, had way better moments. Running across no man's land and the whole World War I storyline was far superior to what felt like a little bit of a Stranger Things. They tried to go for that 80s nostalgia that everybody's playing with right now, and I just think it didn't hit. I think it missed, and overall, it was one of the weaker DC movies I've seen. I even think it was probably worse than something like Batman vs. Superman. It was certainly worse than like a Shazam. It was worse than the first Wonder Woman. I didn't like it as much as Aquaman. It was really disappointing for me. So that aside, it's entertaining. It has some entertaining moments, but it kind of drags, and I couldn't get fully invested in any of the characters. Some of the best sequences of the movie were right at the beginning, where they're showing off this crazy competition that Wonder Woman Diana went through as a child. Like, some of those sequences were really cool. There's a couple good fight scenes, but a lot of it just drags on, and I wasn't really I was getting drowsy at points. I was losing interest, and that's never a good thing, especially in a 2.5-hour movie. So overall, I'd give it like a 5 or 6 out of 10. It is not their best effort, and part of me wonders if that's why they made the decision to lead with this movie, which should have been this huge tentpole blockbuster for Warner Brothers. Maybe they got some early screenings that weren't very positive, and they decided, you know what, we don't need to wait on this one like they're waiting on some other movies, even pushing them out into summer of next year on HBO Max. I think they just said, let's put this out there and get it out there on Christmas and be the first to do this. But the movie itself was just disappointing. Now, the video and audio, let's talk about that. So I streamed this actually in 2 different locations. So I watched it upstairs here in the movie room, so 4K Sony TV that has Dolby Vision, and I had my receiver set up, which handles Atmos. So this was full 4K quality, a strong Wi-Fi connection, good streaming, Dolby Vision HDR, and Atmos. And I confirmed all of that. I went through my TV display settings when I started watching it. And the reason I did that was because I really didn't think it was playing in 4K at first, and I really didn't see much of a highlight with the HDR. So although I was expecting a little bit more, I've seen some really good 4K streams on Netflix and on Apple TV that are solid. Like they're close to discs in many cases. This one was really disappointing. It was there were tons of banding and artifacts, and the compression was really poor. You could really, there is film grain because it's filmed with, it's 35 millimeter. It has some IMAX sequences, so there's some film grain there. But it was just, the detail was so rough around the edges. I mean, it honestly looked like I was watching a 1080p stream, which is not the way a 4K stream typically looks. I've compared 4K streams to Blu-rays. Things like The Irishman was one that I just did. That 4K stream on Netflix looks as good as the 1080p Blu-ray. And that's what I expected from a 4K stream. And instead, what we got here was really poor video quality, a lot of compression, a lot of issues. And the color itself, the Dolby Vision just didn't pop at all. So what I did then was I ended up going off this TV, which is Dolby Vision, and I started to watch some of it downstairs on the Samsung 4K QLED TV. And that TV, again, really nice TV, but doesn't have Dolby Vision because it's a Samsung. And I noticed no difference in the colors between the Dolby Vision HDR up here on the Sony and downstairs on the Samsung. The audio was also kind of weak, and I've heard other people talk about this in reviews and their initial reactions, but I do think they're right. It was very front heavy, almost like they were prepping this for a home theater setup and expecting the majority of people, as you know, to either be using TV speakers or sound bars or simple, 2.1 setups, which is the majority of people who watch movies at home have those types of setups. I would say we're in the minority to have a 5.1 or an Atmos setup. So again, listen to this in 2 different spaces. Listen to it on the Atmos upstairs, and then took it downstairs and listened to it on a regular 2.1 soundbar. And the surround sound definitely helps, but I didn't feel like, wow, this is an Atmos track, this is a huge difference. But it was definitely more balanced having all of the channels, although it was definitely front heavy. When I went downstairs to the soundbar, I had to turn my soundbar up all the way to its max setting, and the dialogue was muffled compared to music. The sound mix was not very loud. It almost felt like maybe I was lacking something. So although it was very front heavy in a full surround setup, when I went to the sound bar, whatever it was trying to do, whatever it was trying to decode that mix down to a 2.1 from whatever Atmos or whatever source that HBO Max was providing, it just didn't play that well. So the audio experience is better in surround sound if you can do that, but it's not going to blow you away. I do think that the 4K disc for Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be a really good disc, and that's going to be a really tough hit against the 4K stream here. I had high hopes for HBO Max because a lot of the streaming quality on other programs I had watched was great, and it just wasn't good here. But this is a true 4K digital intermediate. It does have some IMAX sequences, and the aspect ratio was shifting a bit, so those could be highlights on a 4K disc. And I think on a 4K disc without that compression, with full HDR, with all of that data that we need that just can't get passed through a compressed stream, I think that 4K disc has a really good chance of being awesome and the Atmos will certainly be much better, not coming across a stream, being uncompressed. A lot of things will improve with the disc. I think it still has potential to be a really good disc. But so far, first impressions of this HBO Max 4K stream were honestly worse than a 1080p Netflix stream, worse than a 1080 Amazon, worse than a 1080 Apple TV, and nowhere near the 4K quality that each of those major services can give you. Netflix must have something figured out with compression, because their 4K is head and shoulders above what Warner Brothers and HBO Max just put out. So those are my kind of first impressions of the movie, first impressions of HBO Max and 4K streaming, and yeah, I'm a little disappointed. The theater experience definitely would have been better for this. If you could have seen this in IMAX, that is a much better experience than what you got at home. And if you just saw it in a regular movie theater, still, because you're getting that 4K, that digital intermediate that gets passed to the theaters, they get this big hard drive. Basically what gets handed over to the team that does 4K discs. It's slightly compressed just to fit all that data, but it's not as compressed as a stream is, as far as what I've been told. So they have a much higher quality transfer in a movie theater, and it would have been a much better experience than watching at home. I was really hoping they'd be close, because I don't see myself going to a theater anytime soon, and I was really excited about this chance to watch these movies at home in high quality 4K, HDR, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, and it really just fell short, and has me, for the most part, wishing I had just waited to watch this on disc. We'll see if this improves. We'll see if this was because it's Christmas, it's the season, a lot of people are streaming. Maybe there's some, bandwidth limits on what HBO Max can deliver. Maybe they have a lot of people streaming and signing up for their service, and they're kind of getting capped out. I don't know, but right now it's not a good experience, and Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV, you name it, those other 4K experiences for streaming purposes are much better, and it's nowhere near a 4K disc, and it's nowhere near a 4K digital being shown in a movie theater, especially in an IMAX theater. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully that gives you some idea of what I saw and what I felt. This is fairly, this is better quality equipment than probably most people have that I have upstairs, and downstairs where I watch some of it, it's probably about standard equipment, probably similar to what most people have. Both experiences were poor, so unfortunately I think you'll have a poor experience as well, which is not a good sign, but fingers crossed that HBO Max and Warner can get this figured out before some of the other big movies like a Dune or a Godzilla versus King Kong or things of that nature start to come out, because I want to experience those in a really good quality. But if I have to, I will wait for the disc, because I don't want to compromise what I'm watching at home. If I can't get to a theater, the disc is your next best option. So anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed, have your notifications on, and make sure you follow me on Instagram to stay up to date on all the latest on the channel. Really appreciate everybody watching this video and taking the time. And quick shout out to the sweater gang. I'm getting a lot of comments about how great my sweaters are, and let me just say, it's the perks of living in New England. The winter sucks. It's super cold. It snows. It's miserable here all winter. But we all live within 30 minutes of an LL Bean outlet. So LL Bean, shout out, sponsor my channel. I'm the sweater guy now for the winters, I guess. But just so you know, LL Bean right here, got it for like $20 at an outlet store. So can't beat that for New England, but I could lose the rest of the winters and stuff. I'm good with that, but man, sweater gang on point. So appreciate you all watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.